New Party 1019, New York's #1 for throwbacks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tany Talks Alive. This is season 4, episode 4, where you guys pick the polls. And for today's topic, we are talking about smoking a little weed. I feel like you guys are really scandalous because you guys want to talk about smoking weed, which I think a lot of people actually do. Today, I had a very special guest for you guys, but unfortunately, they had to cancel. But it's okay because Tany Talks is still here, and we're still going to talk about what the people wants to talk about. So let's talk about what weed is, right? So weed is a plant, that grows, and it has THC, and has the capabilities of making you feel certain kind of ways, right? So, smoking weed has the intentions to get you high, right? And they have different kind of weeds that do different kind of stuff for you, depending on what you like, right? So they have high, they have mids, they have lows, and they do different things. And I know they have indica, sativa, they have a hybrid of the both, and probably some other kind of strands that they have out there. I'm not too I don't know a whole lot about different strands and stuff. So if you guys know about weed and have any preferences on smoking weed, you guys let me know in the post below. If there's any really dope strands that you guys know of, or if you guys have any really weird side effects with weed, and why you smoke weed, and what kind of weed you like, right? Because I feel growing up when I was younger, they didn't have so many variety, and I feel as of now, there's a huge variety of weed now that it's we had Arizona, we used to call it back then. It was Reggie Arizona. Y'all remember that? Back in the day. I'm gonna read off one of the comments. So Prophet Almighty, shout outs to you for tuning in. He said that there is indica, sativa, and hybrid, but I know there's others, right? I'm sure there has to be more than that. So supposedly they are high grade, which is one that kind of gets you uppity, gets you moving around and getting excited, and they have one that's kind of mellow, kind of mellows you out, where it kind of makes you tired and stuff like that. And then I guess they have a mixture of both. I always forget, is sativa the one that is the upper or the downer? Can you guys let me know in the comments? Because I always forget which one is which, even though, I do kind of engage in the smoking of the weed. But I've slowed down a lot since before, when I used to smoke. I used to smoke a lot. And now I just, smoke one time a day, maybe, if that. But I usually don't burn as much as I used to. But I did want to talk about my weed story. So let's talk about it. This might sound crazy. I started smoking weed when I was about 14 years old. I never forget. My older sisters were already smoking, and I shared a room with my sister. Shout out to you, Bad Influence. But she would roll up and stuff at night. And she'll roll up or whatever, and she'll go smoke and stuff. And it seemed like a good time. So I was just what is she doing? Rolling up and stuff at night. And so I would ask her, I'd be hey, can I smoke with you? What are you doing? Can I smoke? And she'd be yeah, you can hit it. So I'll go with her, and I'll hit a blunt or two right before I would go to bed. I would never smoke or anything, but she'll let me hit it or whatever. And I remember back in the day, she used to hate it because I would burn with her and take a couple pulls, and I would start laughing, y'all. Y'all couldn't even understand. I was just such a kidder. She'll give me something. She's oh my God, I wish I never gave it to you. Look at you acting all dumb and stupid. Look at you. Don't even. I used to crack up. Yo, I used to be mad annoying when I first started burning. And then so then I started stealing the clips out of my sister's ashtray back then. And then I would take her weed or whatever, and and I was smoking and stuff. And then I guess more people that I knew kind of knew how to do it. And shout outs to one of my very first friends back in the day, Sharice. So me and her, we wanted to smoke one day. And we couldn't buy anything because, like I said, back in the day, it was a lot different than it is nowadays. You couldn't just go to the bodega and just get you some weed. Getting weed was a hidden mission back then. You guys know. You guys who've been burning for a long time before this new day and age. It was hard to get weed back then. We had to go on a mission. and find somebody. Then you had to find a store that would let you buy roll up because some stores wouldn't sell to minors, but then the cool stores would sell to minors, but certain minors, they never used to sell to me though, because even to this day, y'all, I kid you not, when I go to buy bud, like I have problems because they be saying I look like a cop or I look too childish. So I always had to have a buddy to go with me. So I had my homegirl Sharice. She would go to the stores, she would buy the bud. And then me and her together would go find our other friend, shout out to you, Didi, who used to roll our L's back in the day. So we would go, we'll get our little dollars together. First of all, it was a struggle because remember back in the day they had Nicks? So we used to go out and we used to buy little Nicks, little $5 bags of Reggie Bush. Like we used to be on a mission. I would have like $2. My homegirl would have like $2. And we're like, okay, cool. We're going to get the bag for $4. They're going to give it to us. And then we're going to see if somebody else has roll up because we don't have no roll up. So we used to be mad young. Like imagine this, like 14 years old. I got $2. She got $2. We went and got the $4 bag, and then we'll go meet up with our homegirl Didi. Be like, yo, if you buy the roll up, you could smoke with us. And the roll up used to be like $1. So she'll have her little dollar with her little roll up, and she'll roll up for us, and then we'll all like link up together, and we would smoke together. And it used to be a good time. We used to hide though. Like back then, you couldn't just like roll up and smoke in front of anybody. Like we had to go and find a hideout. So that was the next like problem. We would go, we'd get our little weeds together, get our little monies together, and then it was like, okay, where are we gonna burn at, right? Because we had to burn in places where people didn't see us and people won't snitch on us, so the cops won't catch us. So it would be like we're going to the park, or we'll go to like the exit, or if you had a friend's house who like would smoke there, we'd be able to smoke in like the friend's house. But there were times where like the cops would chase us from smoking in the exits. Like the neighbors would call the cops on us, and the cops would like chase us down and stuff. Or we would like cut school to like smoke in the park, and then truancy would come. Like that was like a whole thing. Trying to like smoke back then. Like smoking back then is so much different than smoking now. So I started smoking, like I said, when I was 14. And I would do it with like my friends, and my sister kind of put me on, and I could think of so many like stories of going to like go smoke and get high. I wanted to ask you guys, I know you guys be smoking, you know what I'm saying? I smoke with a lot of y'all in here. But where would you guys go to smoke? Like where was your go-to smoking spot? Like I need you guys to post in the comments below. What was your smoking spot? Like I need to know where you guys used to go burn at. You know what I'm saying? Like, did you go to your friend's house, like, when their moms wasn't home? Like, we also had some friends whose parents were okay with them smoking. Like, I don't know if you know, but, like, I would never forget the first time my mom found out that I was smoking, because she didn't know I was smoking, right? Like, I was the good girl. She knew my older sisters were, doing their thing and all of that. But for me, it was different because I was, like, the good girl, right? So I'll never forget, I was smoking in the exit in my building. And I was burning with my friends or whatever. And the freaking cops came. So we tried to run, right? So we tried to run up the escalator, up the stairs, the exit, because the cops were coming from the downstairs. And then all of a sudden, another cops came from the upstairs, and we were stuck. Like, there was cops below and under us, so they got us. And when they saw, like, how young we were and, like, it wasn't really worth taking us to the precinct, they were like, all right, we're going to take you to your mom's or whatever. So the cop goes, and he takes me to my door. And he's knocking on my door, and I'm thinking to myself, my mother's going to beat my ass. When I get in the house, she's going to beat me down because she is going to find out that I'm smoking. So I was mad, scared, and nervous. Like, yo, my mom is about to find out that I have been smoking, So the cops knock on the door. My mom opens the door. She was like, what the heck is going on? Da, 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 da. He's like, oh, we saw your daughter smoking in the exit. Da, 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 da. Take your daughter, whatever. So they let me go in. My mom blacked on me in front of the cop. But let me tell you how, after my mom closed the door, right? And she closed the door, and she's like, don't smoke in the exit. I was like, what? I thought I was going to get my ass beat right there. Like, I'm not even going to lie. I thought she was going to beat me down. But she's like, don't smoke in the exit. Like, if you need a place to smoke, just smoke here. And I'm like, what? She's like, just smoke here. And that was when, like, my mom actually allowed me to smoke in the house, because she was just like, and then she gave me the rundown of like smoking weed, like, and I appreciate that about my mom, because like she knew I was going to do it anyway, you know what I'm saying, and she did it too. And I guess in my household, like, it was kind of a norm, right? Like, I know a lot of households, you're not allowed to like smoke. It's like deemed the worst thing in the world. But in my household, it was a little different. But my mom was just like, listen, smoke here. If you need a place to go, I'd rather you be here than get arrested or be in the wrong place. You know, like they have trap houses. And that's what she told me. She told me about the trap houses. She's like, I'd rather you be there than the cops go raid a trap house and then you get stuck and then you get arrested and, you know, all types of stuff. I'd rather you just be in the house. She was like, and I'm going to tell you right now, she's like, never smoke a joint or a blunt that you've never seen rolled. Don't just smoke on anybody's stuff. Always watch it be rolled, you know. So my mom always gave me the ones and twos, like, oh, if it looks funny, if it smells weird, don't smoke it. Don't just smoke off of anybody. Don't share with nobody, you know. And then, you know, she kind of gave me the rope. So growing up pretty young, my mom kind of allowed me to burn in the house because I did get caught by the cops in the exit. So she was mad cool about it, which I really do appreciate my mom, you know, because she looked out. She looked out as far as that goes. But I learned a lot, and I think smoking weed is definitely a part of my culture and my lifestyle here. So what we are going to do right now is actually I'm going to go into a good music break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the new school times of burning, because I feel like back then is a whole lot different than now. Now it's a whole new ball game when it comes to smoking weed. So what we're going to do is we're going to go right into this brand new song by my girl Leaf featuring Baby Tate called Picky. All right, baby, I'm just P-I-C-K-Y, and we'll be right back with Tany Talks Live.
The new Party 1019. The new Party 1019, a Nexus radio station.
Hello, and welcome back to Tany Talks Live. On this episode of Tany Talks, we are talking about smoking weed. We're talking about marijuana. We're talking about Mary Jane. You know what I mean? I feel like weed actually has like a lot of different terms. It has a lot of different names, right? Too, I would say nowadays it's not just called weed. It's called, they used to call it Mary Jane. They call it marijuana. They call it Zaza. They call it, what else do they call it? What do you guys call your weed? You let me know. I just call it some trees. I call it some greenery. You know what I mean? And nowadays, I feel like before, as I mentioned, we had like a very small variety. We had Arizona, we had Reggie, we had what was called sour diesel. I know you guys remember that one. You know what I'm saying? Sour diesel. We used to have haze, and I feel like that were just like the only types we had. Now all of a sudden, they got every name under the sun for trees nowadays. Like they want to call it like. They call it gelato. Like, why are you calling it gelato? Gelato is like an Italian ice. Why are you calling it that? They got like Gorilla Glue and platinum, and they got silver, and they got like limoncello. Like, where do they get all of these like really dope trees from? Like, I feel like they take like different types of seeds and they mix them together and start creating like all these new types of Super Saiyan weed plants, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's getting too crazy these days, right? Like, I feel like back in the day, as I mentioned, it was a mission to go get like some trees. You had to actually know a drug dealer, like, and to get some weed out here. And nowadays, you could just go to the store. Like, there are nothing but smoke shops all over New York City now. Like, and I know most of them are illegal because, you know, you have to have like your license and all that stuff now to have weed. But like, weed is very much accessible nowadays. Like, I feel like it's not frowned upon anymore. And I also feel like the youngsters kind of don't have respect anymore. I feel like when I was growing up, right, we wouldn't be smoking in front of kids. Like, we wouldn't be smoking in front of adults. We wouldn't think about smoking on the freaking subways. We wouldn't be rolling up on the bus. Nowadays, like, I take public transportation and I'm on the subway and I see these kids like rolling up on the subway, like just straight up pulling out their weed and just crushing right then and there, rolling up, and even have the nerve to light it up on the subway with other freaking people there. Like, that is ridiculous. Not only that, but also in like public places, like people just aren't discreet with it anymore. I feel like at least with us back in the day, we had respect. Like, if we saw a kid, we're not going to be sitting there just burning in front of a kid. Now people just, they don't care if you have children. Like, they're just going to sit there and burn right in front of people, like in front of old people. Like, no respect. You know what I mean? I like the days back when you had to like hide to smoke weed. Now people just don't care. They're just on the streets, walking down the street with their L. Like, I love weed freedom, granted. I was one of those kids back in the day that, you know, would go out on 420 and protest, no lie, to legalize marijuana. I was there. I was at the protest. So go us for winning the legalization of it. But, like, let's have some class. You know what I mean? Like, let's stop smoking in public places. Like, granted, if you're in the park, cool, but go like off to the side where it's not offensive to anyone. You know, like some people, the smell is super offensive. You know what I mean? So let's have a little more respect these days. And not only that, but like I feel like the price of weed has changed throughout the years too. I feel like, remember, like we used to have $5 nicks, $10 dimes. We used to have $20 dubs. Y'all remember that? And then like at one point the apes were like 25. If you were getting Reggie, it was like 25. And then if you get like sour diesel or like haze or something, it was like $35. I feel like nowadays, if you're spending like $20-$30 on an eighth, like the weed is probably trash. They call it basura. That's they call it AKA block work. You know what I'm saying? That's what they be calling the whack weed these days. They call it block work. But also I feel like the price of weed has also gotten like really out of control, where like they're selling like $80 eighths these days, which I personally cannot afford. Like I do like high quality grade weed, but if I have to spend like $80, $60 on an eighth, like it better last me. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the quality of the more expensive weed is better, because I feel like I would get higher without having to smoke a whole blunt. Like I could smoke half, be super good, save the other half for later. And when it comes to the block work or the whack weed or the Reggie or the Arizona, I feel like I would have to smoke a whole blunt and then still feel like I'm not high enough, so I have to like roll up again. So for me personally, I feel like, you know, you have to find a good medium, and that's really hard to find. I feel like nowadays, like find a good quality of bud, like, you know what I mean? They don't have, you know, good prices and like good amounts these days. But now let's talk about what is it that you like to roll up in, right? Because you could roll up in kind of anything, right? And the way to consume THC or marijuana, however, is different, right? Like you could roll it up and smoke it, right? You could drink it these days. They have like THC beverages I've been seeing. They have like snacks. There's a lot of different ways to eat CBD, which I saw. Like they have a place called Pizza Pushers, and they sell like you know, like pizza, they sell wings, they sell drinks and all that stuff, and it's like a restaurant that you could go to and like smoke and stuff and eat food with THC. I went there, I was smacked. I'm not even gonna lie. The drinks got way more THC than I thought in there, and I was smacked. But you know, you could do it. I personally, if I'm gonna eat it, I like it in candy form. So I like candies, I like brownies and stuff like that. I do not like gummies. I'm not really a huge fan of cookies or stuff like that, but I would definitely indulge in like a good old brownie. If it's sweet, I want it. Also, shout outs to Channel 91 for tuning in. I'm just going to read off one of the comments really quick. It goes, used to smoke blunts, but I'm getting more into joints now. Yeah, so I feel like that's a little thing for me growing up. Like, the first thing that I used to roll up in, y'all, the first thing I ever rolled up in was a White Owl. Like, you guys remember the White Owls? Like, what? I used to roll up in a White Owl. The first thing I ever smoked in, I rolled up in was a White Owl. Then it was like, we were using zigzags. Oh my God, worst thing ever, zigzags. Those are crazy. Then we did Dutches. Remember, we had to like rip the piece out. And remember the back of the Dutch, like the butt of it used to have that dark brown paper. So you had to like flip it over and then like rip it out. Like that was a whole thing. And then you had to rip out an extra piece. Like doing a Dutch master was so much work, because you had to like crack it down, peel it out, unpeel the inside piece, cut off the butt piece, then cut off the inner lining, like just so that you didn't have so much paper. Because like if you was to roll up a Dutch master with all the papers, like your friends will definitely like roast you. It says, yups, Phillies for me, and then Dutches. Yeah, you know, like Phillies, White Owls would be, I would say, like kids in the early 2000s would use those. And then we did Dutch Masters, we did zigzags. And then for a while, we was on the Bluntville wave. I still know girls to this day that be still rolling in their good old Bluntvilles. And you guys remember the time where like they would have like an extra like Bluntville in the Bluntville box? Like, have you guys ever get like the free 2-for-1? I would never forget that. I opened up a Bluntville once and I had an extra wrap in there. I was like, oh my God, God is great. And then there was a time where we had the grape Blunvilles. Remember, they had the gray Blunvilles, it was purple. And then they had the pink Blunvilles, it was pink. And then they had the gold Blunvilles, and then they had like black and gold Blunvilles. And those were the thing. Like, I was on Bluntville wave for a long time. Like, and then they came out with with entourages. Remember, like the entourages were the longer versions of like Bluntville's, and people used to like those because it was longer. But Bluntville's was definitely probably my favorite right before I transitioned to the new before I transitioned to my new form of smoking weed, which I now use roll papers. I use papers now. I roll up joints now. My blunts aren't as fat as they used to be. Back in the day, we would like stuff it and roll up a big fat blunt. Now I'm like, okay, let me do a little girly joint. You know what I'm saying? A little smaller blunt. I used to smoke regular raw papers, and now I smoke organic hemp paper. So they're still raw papers, but they're the organic kind. So they're kind of like lighter and greener. And I smoke in that now. Now, not only that, let's talk about this new stuff that they're doing. Grabba. I hate grabba personally. I can never get into it. Like, I don't see myself putting grabba in my joints. I just don't do it. I can't. What I did used to do back in the day, though, was at one point we used to smoke out of the entire Fanto leaf. I know you guys know. You guys who are old school, you guys from uptown in the Bronx, you know what I'm saying. When we used to go uptown, go to the Jamaicans, get the big Ziploc bag with the whole tobacco leaf. And I mean, it's a leaf like this big. You know, you will unravel it and you'll like pull little pieces. The Jamaicans would roll their whole blunts in the grabba. But what we used to do is we used to take out strips of it. And what we would do is we would put a little strip of tobacco leaf inside with the raw papers and then roll it up. But then it would still be like too harsh for me personally. So then I would take it out. But I think that's kind of how grabba, the crunchy kind, came out, because I feel like people would put like the little strips in it at first, and then I don't know. I feel like the leaf used to get dirty and dry, because when we used to buy the tobacco leaf, we wanted a nice, good, not too moist, not too dry leaf. You know what I mean? But I feel like the stores, because they were buying tobacco leaves and they weren't selling it, because if you remember, like I remember, when you could tell when the tobacco leaf is going bad, because it'll start growing like mold. Right, you would open it and it'll look like moldy or whatever, so you knew it wasn't good. Or they would freeze it or put it in the fridge to make it like last longer, and it would mold faster because of that. So I feel like the stores, what they would do is, because their grabba leaf was getting dry, right, they just started taking it and crushing it up and putting these in little crack bags and like selling them like that. Like, I don't know who created this dry grabba sprinkle on your L thing, because I freaking hate it. And then I feel like the people nowadays, they put in more grabba in their joints than they're freaking smoking the actual weed. Like, what are you smoking? You're smoking tobacco. Go buy a cigarette for all of that. Like, why are you smoking that? Like, that is just so weird to me. I always find it strange that people like be putting mad grabba in their L's. And then I feel like people in like Cali and stuff like that, if you go to Cali and stuff, they don't really be using grabba like that. Like, if you go to like down south and stuff, like Florida, they don't even be using papers. They be using they still be using like the Bluntville's and stuff like that. So I feel like, you know, the times has changed when it comes to smoking weed. And I wanted to ask you guys, like, how do you guys feel like the day and age of smoking has changed? Like, how young did you guys start smoking? Like, what's your favorite type of roll up to use nowadays? Like, did your parents smoke? Like, what's the vibes with that? Like, did you start smoking with your friends, or like, did you start smoking with like family? Like, who influenced you to burn? Because I feel like a lot of people feel like weed is a gateway drug, right? Like, that was always what I heard back in the day. Like, oh, if you smoke weed, you're gonna end up smoking crack and then doing meth and then popping e-pills and then doing all these da 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 da. I'll be honest with you guys. The only drug I've ever done was weed. You feel me? And like, I smoked a cigarette here and there before. I don't know why. I thought it was cool in like high school. And I've drunk, but I've never, like, been smoking weed since I was 14. And I never tried anything else. I'll be quite honest with you. Like, I have friends who tried other drugs, you know what I'm saying? And I never was like, yeah, I'm gonna go try it too. Like, no, I don't know how high people are trying to get, you know what I mean? But for me personally, I can attest that it's not a gateway drug, because it's never gated me into any kind of way, like into any other drug ever, because I've never tried any other drug. But I feel like, you know, weed is a safer type of drug, you know, especially now that people are starting to see a lot of the benefits to smoking weed, right? Like, I told my doctor that I smoke and I have some health conditions, and my doctor's like, that's fine, smoking weed is not gonna bother you. If anything, if it helps with your nerve issues, because I have like nerve problems, and when I smoke weed, what it does for me is it calms my nerves down, like mentally, emotionally nerves, as well as like my physical nerves. Like, so I have like some nerve damage, and sometimes I get pain when I feel my nerves overreacting. So I would smoke some weed, and when I would smoke the weed, what it would do, it would calm my nerves. It's also known as like a muscle relaxer, antidepressant. So I feel like nowadays they're seeing the benefits of consuming cannabis, and they're taking out strands of cannabis. Like now we're doing CBD, which is like strands from weed and things like that have a lot of health benefits, especially for people who suffer from seizures. And I've seen like it's used being treatment for like animals and stuff like that. So I'm really appreciative that the world is now seeing all of the benefits of taking THC, where they're now, legalizing it and offering marijuana licenses to people and things like that. I do think that the legalization of marijuana has affected the everyday hustler, though. I feel like, the hustlers aren't hustling. And I'll be quite honest, I haven't purchased anything from like an actual like drug dealer in some time, because I have the access to walking into a store and kind of buying it. There's more dispensaries now. So I feel like, even though we have all these really awesome benefits and we can buy weed, and weed is now taxable, it's starting to hurt the hustlers' pockets. So, I always think to myself, like, how are the hustlers making it in the street now that they are competing with stores? You know what I'm saying? That are open day in and day out. And, I always wonder, like, how do the hustlers go about, like, keeping their business alive? Like, how do you compete now, with the streets? Well, really important one for me personally. Be able to afford your habit, okay? If you cannot afford to smoke your weed and buy it, stop smoking. Like, seriously, like, I know there's people that, don't have $1 in their pocket and they're trying to go about getting weed. Like, it is not that serious. You know what I'm saying? It is never that serious. Don't spend your last on no weed. You know what I'm saying? If you, like, you're going to sit there and spend your money on, and I've done this when I was younger, spend all of your money on the weed and you don't got no money to eat. You know what I'm saying? Now you're sitting here hungry trying to figure out what you're going to eat. Like, it is never that serious. Like, if you cannot afford to buy the trees, stop smoking weed. Because let me tell you something. You're not about to link up with me and get high off my own supply. Because I work hard to afford my ish, okay? You know what I'm saying? Another thing, too, if you are coming to smoke with somebody, please offer something. That is another thing, too. Like, you people just be wanting to hang out with people that get high and don't never buy no roll up. Don't even got a goddamn lighter in your pocket. Don't want to crush. Don't want to do nothing. But you want to smoke up on my weed all day. Like, yo, where's your ends at? Remember back in the day we used to, wait, you got ends, you got ends, you got ends, who got ends? If you ain't got no ends, you ain't in the scythe, period. Come with your own, or come with your own weed at that. When you're grown and you're at this grown age, come with your own trees, please, and thank you. And everybody should know this. When you are smoking, okay, you pass it to the left-hand side. That is how the ciphers go. We go this way, and we go in rotation, okay? Also, make sure your right hand is on your left-hand side, okay? For instance, like if you are smoking with your man or your girl or your best friend or your sister or somebody you like this way and y'all in the scythe, that person always hits the blunt next. You feel me? So just be like, yo, wherever you stand right here. So if I'm going out with my sister and I know she rolling up or whatever, and it's me, her, and I'm standing on her left side, she better pass that to me next. You know what I'm saying? Or if I'm with my man or my homegirls and we're out in the scythe, best believe I'm passing it to the left, and my homegirl's right here on the left-hand side, and it's going to her in rotation. Okay? So this is pretty much everything that we are talking about today as far as smoking weed. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into Tany Talks Live, episode 4.